Hello everyone, it's Jessica Michaels here for the Shimmerz Paints design team. I am creating another mixed media creation today. I'm going to be working on a 12 by 12 layout, so I'm just taking a sheet of white cardstock and just prepping it with some clear gesso to start. I like to use my spatula to get a nice smooth application of this and just get a nice coverage throughout the entire paper minus the dog hair, because yes, I do have a dog now, so naturally I find dog hair everywhere, even though I'm cleaning constantly, but it seems to love finding my gesso on my paper especially, so that's a natural thing around here, I guess. Now, once my gesso is dry, I'm going to go ahead and start with my sprays, and that's really all I'm going to use today is some sprays, because I just want to blend some colors together. You can see here that I'm just using 3 different colors. I have the yellow one is Sunset Strip in Vibes, and then the orange is a Coloringz in Freshly Squeezed. The pinkish one is Mango Tango in a Vibes as well. And all I'm doing here is I am just adding some water with my spray bottle, and then I am just picking up my paper and physically tilting it to the left and the right to blend the colors together. I wanted to add some blue and some green down here at the bottom, again adding some more water as I go. And the water and the gesso is what's really going to make these colors be able to blend together and move around on the paper. That's why you always see me prepping my paper with gesso before I start any kind of mixed media project, because I want my paper to be able to hold up to all of these wet mediums and not warp too badly. And then the gesso also makes it so that these colors can blend together and create some movement in them by just adding a little bit of water to them. If your colors don't move around and they kind of soak into the paper, it's either because you don't have enough gesso on your paper, but likely it's because you're not using enough water. So make sure that you're not afraid to use water on this to get some more movement in those colors and be able to actually blend them together and pick up that paper, kind of shift it around and move it every direction and which way that you'd like it to go. And then if you want it to be in a certain spot, you can always add some water first and then add your colors directly to your water. And it kind of works the same too if you're using the potted colors. If you have the Shimmerz paints in the little pots, you can simply just spritz down your paper where you want your mixed media to go, and then just begin with a paintbrush, just kind of adding that color in the areas that you want it to be. And if you're using different colors, kind of the same effect, you can just add your different colors together, and same thing, you can add a little bit more water if you need to, and you can pick up your paper and kind of move all the colors around. You can see this is starting to dry at this point, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of splatters with some of these same colors. The bluish ones that I used at the bottom, I have a green one, which is Hermit the Frog in a Vibes, and then I have some other Vibes in Deep Blue Sea and Seize the Day. Those are 2 of my favorite colors in the blues. They're very deep colors and I just absolutely love them. And then I did end up using another blue, which is called Oh Say Can You See in a Coloringz. And I will list all these colors down below in the description. So if you want to grab any of these colors from the shop, all the names and the product lines of those colors will be in my description for you. Here I am just bringing in some white gesso. This isn't my same clear gesso. This is the white gesso by Liquitex. And I like to use white gesso or white acrylic paint whenever I'm adding white splatters like this. So all I did was I put a little bit on my glass mat, and then I watered it down with my paintbrush and water and just flicked some on there. You can see here this is dry at this point. I'm going to go ahead and speed this process up a little bit more. I'm just doing my little photo strips here. I did print my photos on a 4x6 sheet. So I have 8 photos here that I managed to fit on there and print out all at once. And then I'm just making 2 little photo strips here, or film strips. Then I can place these around my mixed media here on my layout. And as you can see, I've also used a Cutfile. The Cutfile is by Peartree Cutfiles, which is a company out of the UK, and I just love her Cutfiles. They're beautiful, they're super easy to use. I have a Cricut machine, so I just downloaded that Cutfile into my software and then cut it out on my Cricut machine, and then I backed it off camera because I have a lot of videos where I show you how to back Cutfiles. So I figured for this one, and the sake of this video not being super duper long, I will cut that out of this video in particular. particular. So if you want to see me backing a cut file and how I do that, go check out some of my other videos where I use cut files. But for this one, I just backed it with some of the patterned papers from the Color Me Happy collection, which is a new collection by Simple Stories. And I will link that down below too for you in case you want to grab it from the Cherry on Top shop. I'll have a link down below in the description for that as well. It is such a good and colorful collection. It is just so happy, just like the name is. It's such a happy and colorful collection, and I absolutely love it. And color is not something that I typically use on a layout. I'm typically like greens and blues and kind of grungy, but I have really been enjoying using more color in my layouts and just kind of creating some rainbows. My one son, not this one on this layout, but my other son, his favorite color is actually rainbow. If you talk to him and ask him what his favorite color is, his favorite color is rainbow. And I actually have a layout about that as well. And that one came out super colorful too, just to match him and his little style and the way that he always is. It's just so funny and he's silly. But this particular son of mine on this layout, he's my oldest, and this was field trip day. So we were field tripping to the Arboretum. So there was fish in different ponds and there was bees to check out. There was so many gardens and different flowers and just all the things. So I wanted to fit on as many photos as I could on this one, but also wanted some really fun mixed media in the background. I did use a stencil here, as you can see, and I just added some little like diamondy kind of stars in my background with a few coordinating colors of ink. So I've got some Distress Oxides here, and then I also have a ink in a Stellar ink as well for the orange color. And then I'm just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue down some of these elements, like these little scallops here that are going to go on the side of my film strips, and I'm just going to glue one on each side in the different colors here. You can't really see the orange one at the end of the layout, but you know what? It's okay. I know that it's there and it looks super cute right now. I'm going to end up covering a little bit of it up though. I've got my cut file here. That's about where I want it to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get these elements glued down here, and then I'm going to grab my manual die cutting machine and die cut a ton of flowers out of these patterned papers. I have a whole bunch of dies by Echo Park, so I'm going to make the most of them here because I don't have a ton of embellishments that kind of go with the flower theme from this collection, but this collection was just too good not to use, and it does have a lot of elements I could use, like cameras and little radios and fun things, but it didn't go with my vibe that I was going for today specifically, because this was a field trip to the Arboretum where all the gardens are and the fountains and things. So I wanted it to be really full of flowers. And there's a whole pack of flowers in this collection, but I just ended up not using them. I wanted something a little bit more textured with a little bit more dimension. So I just decided I haven't used those flower dies before and they've just been sitting here in my stash. So I'm going to pull them out today and use them on this layout. I did want to get a title pop down here to say where we were. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with some of these Pink Fresh Studio letters. You can see I did some machine stitching across them just to help hold them down and add a little bit more texture to this layout. Gonna go ahead and glue my cut file down at this point. I'm using my ATG gun for the larger portions, and then I just go back in real quick with my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, which will dry clear, just to glue down any of these smaller letters or any remaining bits that I couldn't get to with my ATG gun. So we'll go ahead and tack that down. Mixed media is dry, so I don't have to worry about messing that up at this point. And it's really super dry at this point. It didn't warp my paper too bad. That's the joy of the gesso. If it did warp my paper, I would have ran this through my laminating machine. If you have a laminating machine that's big enough to run a 12 by 12 paper through it, that's kind of my suggestion when your mixed media is fairly dry. If your paper is all warped up and kind of bent, you can always run it through your hot laminating machine to just smooth that right out, and it takes out all the moisture out of that paper and really gives it a nice crisp smooth feel again, so it's not warped at all. So if you do have a warped up paper, by any means throw it through your laminating machine and it'll smooth it right out. Just make sure that you do that process before you add your embellishments or photos or anything like that. So I've got these dies here. As you can see, they are kind of some layered flower dies, and I just cut a whole bunch of them out of just scraps of these pattern papers. And then you can see I just kind of layered them all over my layout here and just kind of created this fun kind of garden effect, which is really what I was going for since we were in the gardens. I've got some word phrases here and a little label from the Simple Stories collection, and then I also have a couple little Flair things here. These are epoxy Flair from Scrappin Happy Studio that I'm just going to pop on here as well. I'm going to use that little camera and then little face at the top. And of course, as usual, one of my favorite things to do with Flair is to add thread twiddled behind there. So I'm going to go ahead and add some thread in behind those epoxy flares and secure with some glue dots. And that creates a nice strong hold. I usually use one glue dot on the Flair itself and then attach the thread and then add another glue dot to secure it to my actual page or my project. And then the tails here, I usually glue down the ends just the way I want them, so they're kind of all whirly and twirly and they look super cute. And then I've got this one over here. I'm just going to add a little bit of thread behind that second one. That's a little camera to go over here as another little embellishment. And again, just glue down your tails. Then I've got my date stamp here, which is also in the Cherry on Top shop. It's a newer date stamp, which has lots of years on it, so I can use that one for a long time. And then I am just finishing off the tops of my photo strips by just using some hemp twine, just kind of threaded through both of those tags. Then I'm just going to pull this through. I'm actually going to secure this with my tiny attacher stapler. So again, they're not like all over my layout and flying all about my page whenever I'm trying to put this into my album. So I just stapled down the tails so they were exactly where I wanted them to be. Then I've got some enamel dots here and some little adhesive brads from the collection too. So I'm just going to add a couple of those. Nothing too crazy. I know this is a very, very busy and colorful layout as it is. So I just wanted to add a couple of these little circle dots just to enhance the layout and just add little pops of color here and there. So that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I'm going to link all the products down below in the description for you in case you want to grab anything from the shop. If you have any questions for me, as usual, list them in the comments below for me and I'll do my best to answer. I hope this has inspired you to create some mixed media layouts or projects. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for watching and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.